and my Redeemer. Where did this man get all this? That seems to be a relatively common response to Jesus' teachings. People are shocked, awed, and amazed at what they hear. And others seem to doubt, skeptical of anything that does not seem to fit with what they already know. Here, Jesus has returned to his hometown and speaks in the synagogue there. Many people, though, do not listen to what he has to say. Instead, they question his character. Who is this man? Why does he think he has the right to speak to us about matters of faith? He is just a lowly carpenter. Despite the negative reception, though, it does not halt Jesus and his mission. He goes a step further and gives his disciples a mission too. They are to go and travel around, just like Jesus, and deliver the message of the gospel to others. Jesus gives them the power to do this. We are told that he even gives them power over unclean spirits, and then they are sent off. We can just kind of see this image of the disciples receiving this incredible power and then traveling off, giving these passionate sermons in the streets to people that they meet, driving out unclean spirits from people with extreme passion and fervor, almost kind of like something you would see on the TV show AD. Any of you have watched it? Which is fine for them, because they are the disciples, the hand chosen of Jesus, and they were meant to do these great things. And also, having someone like Jesus give you the power to do so can also make that job just a little bit easier, right? But the truth is that Jesus did not give this mission to the 12 because they are the exemplars of faith for the rest of us to sit back and watch and learn from. Throughout Mark's gospel, we are told that there are many times that the disciples miss the boat and don't really get the whole point of the message. So then why does Jesus send them off and give them the responsibility of their mission? Even though they are not perfect, they are still meant to be examples that this faith in Jesus and this message is not just one where we all sit back comfortably in lawn chairs with boxes of popcorn and passively benefit from it. It is a living faith that should be acted out. After receiving the news, the question arises, what are you going to do with it? The title of the disciples of Jesus is not one that is limited simply to the 12. When we are baptized, we are given a baptismal calling. Through the water and the word, we receive the Spirit in our hearts and are participants in an active, living faith. Every time we step up and receive the bread and wine in communion, we are renewed in that calling and the promises of God that go with it. The disciples being sent out are us. And that can be a very frightening thought to some, one that makes us squirm in our seats. I know it does to me. Is our mission really the same mission of Jesus at the synagogue? How can we possibly ever begin to imagine attempting to accomplish something like this? Have you ever been faced with a similar challenge? Someone at your job asking you to give a presentation? Or a teacher at school giving you a class project where you have to report the results at the end? Or being volunteered for something by a friend that you've never done before? Whenever I am faced with these kinds of challenges, my first thought is to run away in the opposite direction. My mind immediately fills up with questions and doubts and excuses about my ability to do the job. Well, I don't know enough about that, or I haven't taken that class yet in seminary, I haven't had time to practice or write anything out. We get those messages a lot in the world, don't we? You need to have a degree in a certain academic field before you are qualified enough to work or to speak about something related to it. Not just anyone can talk about something or work on a certain project. You need to have some skills first. And if you don't, you can become subjected to extreme and sometimes painful ridicule. And it never seems like we have enough of these skills and abilities, or that we are enough. I cannot help but wonder if the disciples were thinking the same thing when Jesus gave them their mission. The voice in their minds becoming like the voices of those in the synagogue criticizing Jesus. Jesus tells them to take nothing more than a staff with them as well. They are not allowed to take anything with them that helps fulfill their daily needs. Thanks, Jesus. Could they be any more unprepared? When you go on a trip anywhere, you want to pack all of the things that you'll need for the journey. Or, if you're like me, you fill your suitcase to bursting, bringing every possible thing that you think you might need. Well, what if I do end up going somewhere and I need to have that nice outfit? Or what if it's colder than I thought it would be and I wish I had brought that sweater? And then, of course, you have to leave room for gifts and souvenirs. And what if? In case you haven't noticed, I'm really bad at packing for trips, which is probably a good thing that I don't fly very often, because I don't think my suitcases would ever make the weight requirements. But despite their lack of physical things, though, the disciples are already given everything they need for their mission. Jesus gives them the power that they need, and that is the most important item on their packing list, and on ours too. Having that extra outfit, or that super polished PowerPoint that you spent 5 hours on the night before, making sure the transitions were all in place and it looked all nice and polished and you knew exactly what you were going to say, is not always what you need to get the job done. Sure, they make the job easier and more convenient for us. But we have already been given the power. We hear in the reading from Ezekiel today that a spirit enters into the prophet and sets him on his feet. And that same spirit is in us too, and goes with us wherever we go. And Jesus walks ahead of us, guiding us. So we are not as alone and unqualified as you might think. There will be those that can critique us, perhaps, some not as kindly as others. But that is in the nature of the mission, realizing that it is not a failure if we don't get everyone to agree with us. After all, even Jesus could not get everyone to agree with him. The people at the synagogue in his hometown didn't believe him, and he could do no deeds of power there, while others, in a different place, did believe. The mission is not about the number of conversions or how many people show up on a Sunday. It's about the relationships we carry. Because when you pack light, you often have to rely on the hospitality of others for the things missing in your suitcase. But it is in those moments, when we are both givers and receivers of hospitality, that God can become even more present to us in ways that we might not even imagine. So what baggage are you carrying with you? How heavily have you packed your suitcase? If we rely too carefully on our own planning, we may not be able to see what God has in store for us. Or we may feel so hopelessly inefficient that we choose not to hear the Spirit's calling and receive others in the way that we should. Paul tells us in 2 Corinthians that I am content with weaknesses, insults, hardships, persecutions, and calamities for the sake of Christ. For whenever I am weak, then I am strong. We do not have to be prepared for every situation we may encounter. Jesus has already given us a packing list that is more than sufficient for the road ahead. You may have a walking stick if you desire, but it's not a requirement. But no matter what, we do have this. We have Jesus walking ahead of us, the Spirit to guide our feet, and God's power within us, which makes the mission possible. Amen.